Yes.
I had a situation, not now, because this is my wonderful guru, but I had a situation with a previous company who had built my website and they really didn't know what they're doing. And my business is My Daily Compass, birth to 7, and all of a sudden all this pornography ended up on my website. Okay, and it was through WordPress, but it was the WordPress that, and I wasn't managing it, that allowed for advertisements. What do you do in that situation?
That's a really good question, because you will see that what's called the right rail of your website is where you have all of these changing ads that run. Most website administrators, whether it could be something like a WBTV or a Charlotte Observer, or we don't have it on the Better Business Bureau, but most websites will sell the right rail to companies that sell advertising, because that's one of the ways that a company makes money off of their website is through advertising. So then you would have no control whatsoever over what goes in that right rail that could be being pulled up as your website page is there. I was horrified one day to see that when we did have the right rail being managed on some of the BBB sites, they were advertising essentially what are diploma mills. You know, want to get your diploma, want to get a degree in this, you can do it in months by paying us $900. Well, it's clearly a diploma mill scam. But the people who sell advertising in the right rails, they don't care who they're selling it to. All they care about is selling it. So you could have your company and what is a scam or advertisement for porn or whatever it may be in the right rail, and you could be horrified to see that. So what you need to do is obviously have a conversation with your website design company and say that you don't want any right rail advertising, or better yet, you need to take control of your own website. Now, the website company will likely tell you they own your website because they created it. And if that's the case, you will either have to buy it from them, or you will have to start from scratch with a new website and build it yourself. Yes, Kelly?
Can I add a comment that we've learned about this?
Absolutely. And I'm going to pull a Paul Ryan here.
There's the social media for connecting with your consumers or your fans or your market or whatever. And then there's also the using it to get higher in the search engine rankings. So
search engine optimization.
Rather than, that's a whole other discussion, but it's very important which social media outlets you choose to use. If your customers find you on the internet, then there are some of them that Google search engines like better than others, and it would be, for example, we do Facebook, Twitter. LinkedIn's a closed system, so while we use it for its own purposes, it garners, at this point I don't think, no search engine, and Google Plus is a big one right now. I just wanted to mention that for those whose customers are looking for them. That's big.
Yeah, search engine optimization is, as Kelly said, an entirely big subject onto its own. One of the things that we pay, the Better Business Bureau pays a company to make sure that our information on Google appears at the top. One of the things we wanted to do is if you go to Google and say, I need a painter in Charlotte, or I need a flooring company in Charlotte, we wanted to make sure that the Better Business Bureau came out at the top of the search engine results. If you're looking for a painter, check the BBB database. And so that not only helps us sell and renew our memberships, because we're able to say that if someone does a generic Google search for a painter, then the Better Business Bureau site is going to come up. Your your record as a BBB accredited business and as a painter will come up high on the search list. Yes?
Some of the larger website carriers that offer domain names like GoDaddy, you know, which are the best? I mean, is that a reputable site, or how can you figure out which ones are?
That's a really good question about how do you figure out who to buy your domain name from. I actually looked into this a little while back because I wanted to see if janethart.com was available. And it is available, but it's considered to be a premium website because it has your name in it. And so instead of being able to pay the $9.95 to set up a website, I think they wanted $250 for me to have the janethart.com domain. So there are so many companies that will register a domain name. The first thing to do is to search to see if it's available. And what you need to do is you need to own your social media and your digital media identity. So if your company has a name, like let's say I wanted to register Janet Hart, I would need to secure janethart.com, janethart.net, janethart.biz, janethart.co, whatever, if I wanted to make sure that no other company out there was using the Janet Hart name. And I haven't done that, but it's not just a matter of registering on a .com site. You need to secure all of the names with the extensions that you want to make sure someone else doesn't have, who could be, people may think as you if they just did a Google search for Janet Hart. Did that answer your question? You asked who are the best ones to use?
GoDaddy is good.
Yeah, GoDaddy is good, but they do charge, like I said, for premium names. Charge higher fees, yes.
Just to tag on to that, you don't necessarily have to get the domain name from a specific one like GoDaddy, because you can get the names from the cheaper ones and you can have your site redirected.
Okay.
So, you know, you can shop around for you can also buy your name out front, because if you lease the name, as a lot of people do, when it runs out, if you don't, after that year to 2 year that you pay for it, if you don't re-up in time and you happen to lose that name, sometimes the companies will hold the name hostage. And they will, and you have to go into what's called a bidding process in order to get the name back, because they monitor the sites that have names and see how active they are, and you know what sort of business is being done on them. So they sort of hold you hostage to it. So if you're not going to keep it leased on a regular basis, then you need to just buy the name out front.
And she's got a very good point about the domain names and the length of the registration time. Back when the internet was still in its infancy and many of larger companies had not set up their websites or hadn't secured their own names within, you know, a certain amount of time, there were a lot of enterprising techno types out there that went and registered all the big names they could think of for corporations that weren't being used. And then they offered that name for sale to that company. And one of the interesting ones, when Charlotte first started talking about getting an NBA team, and it was going to be the Charlotte Bobcats, they had not registered that as their domain name, so someone else did. And then the Bobcats ended up having to use the name Bobcats Basketball as their official domain name. And I saw on Twitter the other day where one person has a domain name and they've told the company what their price would be to sell it to them, and that now they're got the company up to $70,000, and it probably cost them $10 to register the domain name. So it's very important that you do register your names. and, or else you could get into a bidding war, as you said. And there are a lot of techno types who have made money off of other companies' names. Yes?
I was just wondering, you talked about analyzing your audience and therefore coming up with the Facebook and Twitter for two primary media sources. How often do you do a digital media analysis? And who's to say, we just discussed how Facebook has changed and it's now for older people. So you're already using Facebook, but what if Pinterest or Instagram are now places where older people are going or consumers are going? And how often do you make a digital analysis so that you change the media, social media that you're using? Or how often do
Change
you
your focus.
a market analysis?
We do it informally, and we're actually in the process of evaluating the usefulness of our Facebook page. We post lots of information on it about scam sites, upcoming media interviews. We post links to all of our news releases, so we spend a good bit of time on Facebook. And our original goal with our Facebook was to hopefully get our almost 4,000 BBB members to like us on Facebook, so that way we could provide them with, engagement and content in a much more casual forum. We've had a lot of difficulty getting people to like our Facebook page. About a year ago or 2 years ago, liking things was the hot thing to do. And then what happens? You get that company's information in your activity feed, and it kind of clogs up your activity feed. So now there's a kind of a backlash against liking companies because you don't want them cluttering up your activity feed. So we're actually we're having a discussion about pointing our Facebook links to our national organization, because we have not been able to grow our Facebook followers as quickly as we had hoped, or as much as we had hoped. But now Twitter, as I said, is the site for us, and we have, I think it's about 3,200 followers on Twitter right now, and it's growing every day. And the reason why, because of the fact that we're a broadcaster, I probably share 10 to 15 things a day through Twitter. And it may not be things that I would put out as a news release, but I have so many media people who are following me on Twitter that if I tweet something about, oh, here's the latest Facebook thing you need to watch out for, then that can easily be a 15-second story on the news that night. So Twitter is definitely the medium for us. What you have to do in terms of evaluating your social media interactions and what's successful for you is looking at what medium is right for our audience and our followers. Pinterest is a great way to reach women. Instagram has a much younger audience. Twitter is just absolutely, not bombarded, but crawling with media people. And in fact, if there is breaking news, the first place I go is to Twitter, because if there's something happening, you will see it on Twitter and faster than you will see it on CNN. I mean, it really is. If there is something happening and you need the latest details, or you want to know what it is, you go to Twitter, because it will definitely be on there very quickly. So does that help answer your question? Okay, I think I've run a little bit over on my time. So is that okay? So thank you all so much. You've been a wonderful audience. Great questions. And again, please don't hesitate to call me or email me if there's anything I can do to answer any questions for you.